What's up, guys? This is your boy Jalen here on another episode of Elevated Minds. We have a special guest here. We have Mr. Robert, and we've got a really cool topic today. We're going to be talking about shadow work and the importance of it and what it is, because not many people know what shadow work is, but it's an essential part of our growth. You give your best, definition of what you feel that shadow work is.
Shadow work, like an exploration of your darker tendencies, the shadow aspects of your ego, that are repressed in your subconscious.
When it comes to shadow work, how important would you say that shadow work is for your growth? What happens if you don't do shadow work?
So your shadow is just going to stay unlit, and you're not gonna see what you need to change. It's all about shining a light on everything. Your dark shadow, you can't kill your ego, and you can't kill your shadow self. You can only shine a light on it.
What would be an example of some tendencies that you would shine on? Like when you put your light on it, what would be some things that some people would see with their shadow?
When I'm doing my course on shadow work, I go through about like 50 questions, and they're just general questions, but really, you just, what's wrong with me? Why do I react this way? Where does it come from? Those kinds of questions, you gotta be as honest with yourself as you can get.
That's something, I didn't realize that I was doing shadow work before I knew what it was. And, there would be times where, say I'm in a relationship and, I've got these tendencies that are coming out. Maybe my partner was doing something that, that kind of triggered something, and now I'm acting a certain way. And these traits might be negative, not positive. But that was something that I had to actually look inside myself, because, I think when it comes to ego, sometimes we don't want to take accountability for, our actions or our thoughts and things like that. Sometimes I feel like we don't want to take accountability for what might be negative, a negative part of us. Would you have any advice for people that kind of struggle with, acceptance? I think a lot of people have issues when it comes to acceptance, like accepting that there might be a behavior that you're doing that might be toxic or just might be more negative.
So the only way to get into it is, once you start, you just can't stop. And the more you do it, the easier it is, because you shine a light on so much that there, but every time you shine a light somewhere, there's a shadow somewhere else.
Yes.
Uncovering stuff. And relationships are gonna bring it out. Whether it's a romantic relationship or a friendship or a business relationship, you're gonna be, and you're gonna have to deal with it.
Can you think of a situation where you kind of had to identify these behaviors, or shed some light on things that you were doing in your relationship? Have you ever experienced that?
Absolutely. That's kind of why I started. I do. I didn't realize I was doing shadow. The word dark kind of, like it's got a whole esoteric, cloud around it, maybe satanic or whatever. But it's just psychology on Carl Jung philosophy and his school of psychology.
That's the thing I feel like a lot of people don't realize, because I think everyone has there's a kind of a negative connotation with it, when they think shadow work, they're like, oh, it sounds evil, sounds demonic, especially, like maybe in the church, they might not look at it as, something good. But I feel like that's something that came, I came across it on accident, doing it already, didn't realize it. But what are some types of techniques? Do you have any techniques that you do personally that you've used when it comes to shadow work?
So just not judging yourself is the biggest thing. And that's the hardest thing to jump over. Not judging yourself. You get to a point where you start everyone and you feel compassion because they're going through stuff.
And I think triggers are like one of the most important things. Are they're indicators, like they're indicators that there's something going on. And I think a lot of people have to really check their triggers, because sometimes people just get mad about things or just let things fester, or it comes out and they're not really, I guess, aware. They're not really paying attention.
Shadow work, you're actually shining a light on the wound.
Yes.
Instead of letting it fester and boil in the darkness,
Yes.
Because that's when it comes out, is when you get triggered, and if you haven't dealt with it in a series of extraordinary ways, all violence. It happened to me in relationship after relationship. Totally violence. I mean, that did happen, but it wasn't like prevalent in every relationship where I flipped out, hands on somebody.
Right. And like my relationships before, I had to kind of like check certain things, because for one of my main things would be like if a woman was, I guess, kind of loud, or if she was a little more aggressive, it would trigger me to kind of like I would attack back, or I would yell back, or it would make me act out of character, or some type of anger that I would have. It would actually really upset me, and I would get really sensitive, and I couldn't figure out why until I actually stopped and actually went back and thought back, and I didn't realize when she says these things and I'm getting upset, and then it's like, oh, this brings me back to when I was a kid. Mom was yelling at me about this and this, and it triggered me or made me think about that. It could be anything, but the thing is, I think a lot of people really don't really pay attention. A lot of people don't really think that it's important for you to take the introspective and kind of look back and see what actually is going on, find the root. But would you say there's any specific challenges or obstacles that people will face when they're doing shadow work?
So yeah, absolutely. You're facing your.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's gonna bring up a lot of kind of like I said, behind the shadow, when you shine a light on shadows, like if you shine the light down, you're gonna have shadows behind your legs. Shining the light on front of your legs, there's some obstacles. Like I said before, it's something that doesn't stop. If you think you've reached a point where you uncovered, you did it wrong, because you can't stop.
Yes. I mean, one thing that is important to realize about self-improvement and growth and everything like that is it's an ongoing process. It's not going to you can't just say, oh yeah, I'm done. You can't just say, oh, I learned something, now this is it. It's an ongoing process. And, I think with doing shadow work, it's like, it's digging deep. And I feel like there's just so much, especially the fact that, as kids, we pick up on all these things. We get programmed, and we have all these views of ourselves and limiting beliefs and all these things in our shadow that we just don't really know about. And all that is built up onto our adulthood.